So am I on?
Hi.
So hello everyone. Part of the technical issue we had is that Carolyn and I can't seem to be on at the exact same time. So when Carolyn goes to chime in, there might just be a moment where we need to pause and mute me and bring her on because for some reason we were having interference with each other. And we play really nicely together, so I don't know how that could happen. So welcome. This is our first webinar of the month of November. So we're introducing the third set of what we've been calling the core four, and we'll be looking at how to expand those core four, those high frequency words that we're looking at focusing on with our kids by expanding them as we're modeling to start looking into other parts of speech, particularly describing words. And Carolyn is going to give us a sneak peek at some really fun wordplay and reading activities that we will pick up on again next week as part of the reading week for the month of November. So where today's webinar fits in with the 5 steps is we're focusing on the instructional strategies of modeling aided language and really thinking about language expansion and how we add on if a child is maybe currently using one symbol, how we expand that message to 2, or if they're not yet using their symbols, how we provide a symbol based on what it is they're doing and expand on that. And the tools, same as before, are any communication system with a good, robust core word vocabulary or a POD, a pragmatically organized vocabulary. So you guys will be familiar with this. This is the Dynamic Learning Maps first 40. So the 40 high-frequency core words that the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill identified as kind of those essential 40 that if a student only has access to 40 words, what are the 40 most essential that allow them to communicate the largest variety of communicative messages, but also be able to participate in the curriculum, have language around learning, and social language as well. So we are each month as our core 4, we're looking at one set of 4 words from the DLM for first 40. So we are in our 3rd month, so we're looking at these words: who, she, you, and he. And just a reminder that core words are that small set of words, so you can see back here that that's those first 40. They're that small set of words that we use really frequently that make up most of what we actually say to each other, and words that we can use all across the day, whether we're at school, whether we're in the community, whether we're having a social conversation, whatever it is we're doing, core words make up the bulk of what we talk about or how we talk. And these are words that are really easily combined and recombined with many other words to form a whole bunch of different messages. And it's also, when people refer to core words, it's just a reference to one way that we can organize a communication system vocabulary. So core words are those really high frequency words that appear across the day, and fringe are those very specific words that make our message more specific. So fringe could be, is mostly nouns. It could be all the things that you like most to do. It could be the people who you most care about, all of that sort of thing. Those are the specific words, and core are the high frequency. So this month we are looking at who, she, you, and he. And take a look at your own system, the system you're using with your child, and just look for where you can find those 4 words. So if we look at Deanna Wagner's symbol display that she's allowed us to share freely, some of you don't have a communication system yet, and you might just be using a core board. We can find who down in the bottom row and around the middle, it's a pink one. She and he are both down at the bottom on the far left side, and you is higher up. And this is fairly traditional for many communication displays, that the words have been placed on the display in the general order that we might use them in a sentence. So because he and she and you are pronouns, and that therefore they often start a sentence, we've got them over at the left-hand side, and we can kind of construct a sentence by moving from left to right. The most common app that our families are using is Proloquo to Go, and we've recommended using nothing smaller than the 6x10 core vocabulary. So if you take a look at this screenshot, this is just the standard core word vocabulary in Proloquo. We can find you along the left-hand side. We can find who at the top. Over towards the right-hand side, and he and she, this is very common with many of our other systems, we actually have to dig a layer down. We'll be going into the people folder, which you can see on the left-hand side. When we started in September with our first core 4, you can see them here. They're highlighted in green to make them easier to find. I, want, like, and not. And then last month in October, we added 4 more. It, help, more, and different. And now this month, we've added these people words, again, following the dynamic learning map schedule. So who, you, and then we have to dig into our people folder to find he and she. So hopefully you've all been able to find those words. This is just a reminder, you may have seen this before, but when we are working on core words with our kids, with modeling these core words, our targets are a few different things. Our instructional targets are goals. First, we really want to strengthen their concept knowledge of all these specific words. So some of our kids are still developing more receptive understanding, and when we model these words, we're going to help them develop that inner language to help them participate throughout the day. We are working on how all of us can automatically access these words so that we don't have to think about the fact that we want to say one of these core words and have to look at our child's system and visually scan each symbol to find it. We want to develop our automaticity so that we can, without even thinking about it, we know where to find that word on our display or how to construct that message in our system. And we really want to be increasing the frequency of how often we and our student use these words, combine these words, and recombine these words so that we can really be developing language by using them so often. So what's particularly valuable about set 3 of the core 4 is that these are people words, and if you've worked with very many people with Angelman, then you'll know that one of the really consistent patterns is our folks tend to be very interested in the people around them, tend to be very interested in increasing their amount of social interaction, and words like who, she, you, and he can really enhance that interaction. So it's just fun that in the month of November, we get words that have so much personal meaning to the individuals with Angelman that we're supporting. Our first word is who. This is a good high frequency word, but it's also particularly high valuable for our kids. It has huge social value and huge interactive value. And we can use it in things as simple as choice making by making sure that by trying to use it as often as possible, we're creating more space for our kids to decide who they're going to do an activity with, who they're going to eat with, who they're going to work with, who they're going to play with, who they're going to see, all of that kind of thing. We have many students with Angelman who are so interested in the people around them that teachers often report that as a challenging behavior. That, for example, if someone passes the classroom door in the hallway or enters the classroom, that their student with Angelman kind of wants to stop everything and go see who that was, maybe meet them, maybe interact with them, and they're always looking for behavioral supports around how do we lessen the distraction of our person's interest in the people around them. And so words like who are really powerful for that as well. So there's so many ways that we can use the word who. So when we are talking about a concept in class, who knows the answer? Who can help me? Who is that? And I think that's often the question that our students are asking when that person enters the classroom or they see someone in the hallway. Who is that? We can ask our kids, who would you like to play with? Who would you like to write a note to? We can talk to them. Who did you see this weekend? Who are you going to see next weekend? Who would you like to have help you? Would you like it to be Alexis or Samuel or someone different? And I know who knows this. You do, right? So who is just one of those words we can use very frequently. Because who is a question word, I think that we really need to focus on using it in conversation and not as an interrogation. So we're not testing kids by asking them questions that we already know the answer to, and asking them to point obediently to, this picture, that picture. That's assessment, that's testing, that isn't actually building language, developing language. So when we are looking at modeling the word who, we're just talking about using it in conversation. We're giving kids an expectant pause. The general rule of thumb is to count to 5. So say our message that uses the word who, such as who knows the answer, or who can help me, or who is that, and then count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And try not to jump in with an answer or a prompt before that. Some of our students with Angelman are very fast processors, and they can quickly organize their body to give you a response, and some of our kids need a lot more processing time, even in that 5 seconds. And if we don't really discipline ourselves to count to 5 and really give them an opportunity, then we are going to constantly be giving them the answer before they've even had a chance to show us that they know it. So work on that expectant pause. We're going to try to use this in conversation, not interrogation, create that expectant pause. And what we're really trying to do is create an invitation. We want our student to respond. So who is it you want to work with today? We're going to count to 5, give them some time to come up with their answer, and create as many of these invitations as possible to get them communicating with us. We're going to accept all their multimodal responses. So if I say to the student, so who do you want to work with? And she turns and looks at someone, I'm going to roll with that. And I'm going to say, oh, that's who. This person, the person that you looked at, but I'm going to reflect the response that she gave me on her AAC, on her communication system. And Mary Louise Bertram talked last month about that whole instructional strategy of how we can reflect the student's response back. So one example, who would you like to work with? Our student gets excited. We can tell from her hands, we can tell from her facial expression that she likes this question, that she likes being asked this, and we can tell from who she's looking at, who she wants to work with, and we say, oh, you are looking at Sam. I think Sam is who you want to work with. Okay, let's ask Sam if you can work together. And so we'll be modeling here who and you, as well as we may or may not decide to model the individual's name, Sam. Some interesting thing I've noticed with so many of our kids is often the very first thing that they learn how to find in their system, we provide them with this robust system. They have their pod book, their Proloquo, their touch chat, their so many different systems that they might have. They have that system in front of them, and the first thing that they often learn to navigate to independently is their people. So they figure out where their mom, their dad, their brothers, their sisters, their aunts, their uncles, their teachers, their aides, whoever it is that they like the most, that favorite therapist, they figure out how to find those names. And so I don't tend to find that modeling the name of the person, that fringe word of the specific person, is as high a priority as modeling the core language, such as you and who, because chances are the first message we actually get from our kids is something like the person's specific name. The second word that we are introducing this month is you. So again, very high frequency. When in doubt, you can always model you. I and you are two of the most frequent words in the English language, and if you don't know what else to say, you can always say you. And we can combine it with just about any verb or any adjective to make a message such as, I think you like this, I think you want that, here you go, and hand it to them. Can you help me? I need you to sit with me. You can do this. I like you. Oh, you're looking at him. Are you wondering who he is? Things like that. We give lots and lots of instructions to our students with Angelman, and we can be modeling the word you while we're providing all of those instructions that we give. The third and fourth words that we're looking at this month are she and he. So these are incredibly flexible words because they can refer to any person. This is why I would model she and he rather than focusing on modeling the name of specific people. So if you're going to see your very favorite adult today, it's your speech therapist. She is coming this afternoon. I would rather model she than the name of the therapist because we can, the word she just has such greater utility. We can use it all across the day, whereas chances are our student will actually learn pretty quickly where her favorite person's name is and be able to find that one on her own. So she and he refer to any person, but start to get a little bit more specific so that when our student is very interested in another person in the classroom and appears even distracted by that, we can use words like she and he to build language about more appropriate ways to kind of show that interest in new people and begin to interact with new people. So she and he can be combined with just about any verb or adjective that makes sense. And she and he really start to build on that social interest that most of our students with Angelman have. So these are just very high utility words for them. We've talked about lots of different ways that we can teach our students how to use AAC, lots of different forms of modeling. And what we wanted to focus on this month was expansion, where whatever it is they've told us, we're going to expand it to one more level to add kind of more concept information to what it is the student is communicating. Because words like he and she and who really lend themselves to that very well. And I'll give you some examples of what I mean. When we're working on language expansion with these words, we're just remembering that people tend to be one of the most common and one of the most intense interests of our students with Angelman. So if you're trying to find a preferred activity, very often that's the people in their lives. Many of our students, when they first have a system, one of the first things they can do is find favorite people and repeat their name and say their name over and over, and they often get stuck on that. And so the kind of thing that I'll observe in a classroom is maybe that favorite speech therapist is coming this afternoon and our student with Angelman is very excited and keeps saying her name. And everyone around the student keeps saying, yes, Mrs. Smith is coming. Yes, Mrs. Smith is coming. You know, yes, you like Mrs. Smith. And just sort of repeating what it is the student has already said. So our student is saying the name. What expansion lets us do is really model how they can take that interest in the one person and start providing more information and start having real interaction so that we're not getting stuck in that trap of, yes, so-and-so is coming. I've even had school teams who have muted or dimmed or taken away the voice output from buttons of favorite people to our student because our student says the names so frequently that it becomes disruptive. And I think a far more productive strategy is if we can really focus on expansion. So some of the ways that we can expand on that language if our student is very interested in one person is providing some information about it. So who is that person? If we're talking about the speech therapist, we might go ahead and offer that information. So yes, Mrs. Smith, she's your speech therapist, and that word, maybe not the highest frequency, but would probably be in a category that could describe the occupation or provide other information about who that person is. We can start describing the person. It might be that our student is saying the person's name over and over again because they're actually asking a question. So sometimes it's who is that person because it's someone new. Sometimes they're asking where is that person. Sometimes they're asking when will we next see that person. And so we can model how to offer information about them because that's going to start developing the language further, so that, for example, if our same student who's saying Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Smith learns from our model to say when Mrs. Smith, or where Mrs. Smith, or where mom, when dad, then you can see how that immediately starts to expand their ability to convey their message and other people to better understand what it is the student is saying and how to more appropriately respond to be able to provide the information the student is seeking. Sometimes our student isn't seeking information on the person that they're talking about, but they're much more, they want to have a social interaction about them. And that's where expansion about he or she or who, using adjectives, using describing words, cool, funny, silly, brother, sister, all of these kinds of words, providing our student with more models of how to describe the person so that they can start to complete a thought and start to share information about them. And sometimes what it is that they might really be saying is when they, say Mrs. Smith, that might be their swimming coach, and what they're really saying is they want to talk about swimming, and it's their people folder that has the word that they most associate with swimming, because what they most associate with swimming is the person. So we can say, yes, Mrs. Smith, she helps you talk, or yes, Mrs. Smith, she's teaching you how to swim, and we can expand the message with the verb that's most related to the person. So here's just one kind of classic example for some of our kids where the student is saying John, 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 and the adult might model back, yes, John is your brother, and actually show where to find the word brother in the system. And John might, squeal and repeat to show now he's gotten some interaction around John, and the adult models back, I think you like John. And our student might again just simply say John, and the adult says, well, John is funny, John is silly, or you like to wrestle with John. Just simple things like that. Here the student says Ms. Elliott, and the adult offers back, yes, Ms. Elliott is your OT. I think you like Ms. Elliott. And the student repeats, Ms. Elliott, Ms. Elliott. And the adult provides some more information. Well, she will come tomorrow. You will see her tomorrow, and you laugh when you see her. Maybe the student expands by using a word with something like swing, Miss Elliott, swing. This is one of something I've seen in so many of our kids where they're associating that favorite person with the activity because they know when they see Miss Elliott, they're going to go to the gym and they get to go swing. So the adult says, yes, you're right. I think you will work with Ms. Elliott in the gym and you'll get to go swing. Ms. Elliott is fun. And all I'm trying to show in these examples is that we're not modeling back what we know the student can already say. We're not saying, yes, Miss Elliott is coming tomorrow, show me Miss Elliott. We're not saying, yes, Miss Elliott is going to swing with you, show me swing. We're trying to expand past that. So right now, our student is clearly showing a lot of enjoyment about her OT sessions, a lot of enjoyment of this person, and so we're going to expand to something the student can't currently say or isn't currently saying, such as Miss Elliott's fun. And when our kids begin to develop those skills, then we tend to start seeing much more interesting interaction with other people. You can imagine if Miss Elliott walks into the classroom and our student says, Miss Elliott, like you, or Miss Elliott, fun, that's when they start to now get that social interaction that shows the other person how important they are to them, and it just becomes much more interactive and rewarding for our students. We can expand by really making good use of our homepage. So if we're trying to expand on words like she and he and you, well, we can combine that with almost any other word on our child's core board page, on their homepage, wherever their language is. So if all you have currently is a core board page and you're still trying to figure out what your long-term communication system is going to be, take a look at this screen and just think of all the ways we can all the words that can be combined with a word like she. She wants, she has, she feels, she needs, she likes. You want her to come, right? He looks, he sees, he gets, he drinks, he puts, he opens, he makes. This is the value of core words because they can be combined with so many. So we already introduced I in the month of September, and now we've introduced you, he, she, and those can be combined with just about any of the words here. So you make, you help me make, you stop, you want me to stop. You play, he plays, we all play. So we can use just the core words we have and combine them with these new words from this month to come up with a huge range of messages that we can use across the day. So when we target words like you, it really kind of begs us to expand the other core words that we're already trying to focus on. So you like, you do not like, you want to see, look, do you see, you want to go, you can, you do it, you can do it, he's good or that is not good, she's finished, you can help, do you need help, I think you feel, and then we can expand to the feelings page, or you want her to come here, you want me to come. What all these different messages allow us to do is because of the focus on pronouns, because of the focus on you and he and she, it immediately starts allowing our student to be much more directive and interactive and much less passive in any situation they're in with a whole bunch of other people. And I think this is true of all use of AAC, but when our students start learning from our model, and it might be a year or two, it might not happen right away, but when they start learning from our model and beginning to use their communication system to start using these words, when they start vocalizing and say, you come here, when they start using their system to vocalize like this and call people over to them, the interaction that they get from other people, the response they get from other people is dramatically different because they didn't just use their bodies. They actually used words. And what happens is the people around them now presume that they understand a lot more and they interact with them differently. So if you have a student who is just desperate for social interaction, then really modeling these words, modeling core words in general, but also really modeling these words just can make a huge difference. We can also expand on what they're saying with fringe words, right? So those fringe words are those words that allow us to be specific. So for example, speech therapist, OT, teacher, educational assistant, those are all occupation words. You know, you could also argue that words like firefighter and fairy and cowboy are occupation words, and so those are really fun words. Those are great imaginative words that kids make great use of. Family roles such as mom, dad, sister, cousin, aunt, uncle, and friend words such as BFF or just friend are all really powerful words. So yes, she is your friend, she's your sister. We can start expanding on our kids' interest in people by using words like that. We can expand by getting into their describing words, however that's organized in their system, such as positive words or negative words. But, you know, pretty, tall, short, ugly, all of those kind of words allow us to start having an actual conversation about people. And when we start using describing words, we tend to get into a realm of words where there isn't just one right answer. So when we really focus on describing words, it tends to get us out of testing mode with our kids because, for example, if I open up my positive describing words and I've got everything from here, I'm actually going to open up a system in front of me so I can directly refer to one. But when I open up my describing words, and I've got words like big and little, high and low, fun, happy, favorite, and I say, describe your aunt, I've already got so many words there that you can't test me to describe my aunt with this because there's so many different options of how I can do this. So if I say that my aunt is quick and pretty and little versus, you know, favorite versus big versus happy, you can probably find a context that we can build on with just about any of those. So we can describe things based on how they sound, such as loud and quiet, or how they feel, such as smooth or rough, or how they taste, such as sweet or sour. We can focus on developing concept knowledge around things like opposites, and start focusing on describing words and really digging in so that we're trying to develop that concept knowledge around how we understand, how we describe the things around us. And we can also really focus on describing words that are fun. So many of our folks with Angelman, one of the first abstract words they ever used was actually not something like, but it was a word like silly or stinky or scary or epic. These kind of really fun words, maybe slang words. But these are the words that tend to get a really great reaction from other people and just result in more interaction. So fun words are great, and we can expand on you and he and she by really going into those and, oh yeah, you think he is cool, and model that for our kids. We can model their feelings. So just looking at Maggie right now, I might say, Maggie, you seem bored, or you seem excited, or you seem tired, you seem happy. We can model the verbs and activities. So however your child's communication system is set up, chances are you have an actions or activities or verbs folder, and you can expand on their interest in people by expanding to the things that our student does with that person. So if we're talking about family, what is it you do with your mom? What is it you do with your dad? Maybe it's wrestle, maybe it's go to the park, maybe it's walk to the park, maybe it's play, maybe it's read. If it's our OT, then maybe it's swing. If it's our speech therapist, maybe it's singing. But there's all kinds of ways that we can expand on when our student shows interest in a person, using that pronoun and then expanding it into verbs. And we can also, we find that a lot of our students with Angelman really associate their people with places. So where do they go, or where do they see that person? So if it's a doctor, it might be the hospital. If it's their OT, it might be the gym, and so on and so forth. If it's their coach for soccer, it might be the field. And we can expand on, yes, you will see that person. So we just expand it with a core word, at soccer or at Girl Guides or at the park. So lots and lots of ways that we can expand, and just the power of these words for this month is that they really do beg to be expanded. If you have a student who's using a pragmatically organized dynamic display book, such as a pod, then the expansion is very natural in that. You might expand based on the something's wrong folder to be able to say, I think something's wrong, you seem tired, bored, etc. You find lots of positive describing words under the I like this branch starter, and negative describing words under the I don't like this. So the reasons for why you like it or don't like it tend to be down those paths. You can expand on the I'm asking a question with lots of who questions. So under the I'm asking a question pragmatic branch starter, you'll find things like who is that, and where is that person. And then we can get into those describing words and adjectives if we follow the I'm telling you something, get into categories or actions or activities. So lots and lots of options for how we can use expansion with the words that we're focusing on this month. And I think that what I'd be encouraging any of you to do who are trying to figure out how to make sense of this is to just kind of target one. Feel free to just sort of target one that you think is going to be the most valuable with your student, and we'll get into that a little bit more at the end. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to mute me and hand the screen over to Carolyn because she has some phonemic fun and rhyming to share with all of us.
I'm muted. Okay, I'm just doing a little teaser for next month. So we're looking at phonemic fun. I was just having a little play around with our words here. we've talked some about how we can sneak in some phonemic awareness training, and so I'm going to be looking at a little bit of rhyming today that goes along with the types of words that we're using. So rhyming activities that will work with he and she. Next week I'll have another one with who, you. Have some fun about that. So I'm just going to let you see ahead, and then next week you'll get to see them all. So if you go to the next slide, Erin. This is a great book from Tar Heel Reader. We Blew It. It's from the author Read a Book, and it's just, of course, wonderful, wonderful pictures that make kids really want to read it once, really make them want to read it again, and that also make students want to read with their peers. So this one looks at he and she, and so let's just go to the next page. Uh-oh, he blew it. Next page. And she knew it. So we've got a couple things going on here. We've got that rhyming of blue and new, but we've also got the wonderful use of he and she, and also of our it. So we've got lots of words we've already talked about that we can jump in and model. And we're not asking that the students look, as they look at this book, that they are trying to read the book by using their communication devices. We really don't want to push that. What we want is to just have a fun connection, that we've read the page, we're showing the words, and she knew it. Oh, look at her. And now we're going to talk about that page. Uh-oh, she looks a little bit mad, and that's where we can get back into those describing words. We can look back. If you'll go back one page, that we can talk about, uh-oh, oh, that is bad. Oh, he is a bit naughty. So we can be talking about it, not trying to read by pointing to the words on your communication set, but talking about each page after we read the page, and then we have this wonderful, fun conversation about it and model some of those words that we've taught. The words like, oh no, I think he needs help. So we're going back to that word from the last set, but adding the word from this set, the he. And so the key words we're modeling as we talk about this are he and help. So if you'll go forward one, just think about words that we can say in this one. Some of the conversation we can have around that. Some of the negative words. Oh, she is not happy. So now we're going back to that core word, the first core word set, the not. We're picking that up again, and we're combining it with the set from this week, she, but we can also go look at some of the describing words such as feeling. So just having some fun. And again, remember that you're not trying, the goal is not to model the most words possible. The goal is to stay one or two words above what your student is doing. And so if your student might be going and saying, mama, mama, then you're going to be modeling, right, she is not happy, that mom is not happy. So you're modeling one or two of the key words. So we'll go next. I have a book that I'm doing that's going to be at Tar Heel Reader, and you'll also have the PDF available at on your connection at the Angelman website. So if we'll go to the next page for he likes, she likes. He likes cats. The next page. She likes rats. So just having some things that might be just a little bit unexpected, some fun rhyming, and some things where we can then switch out pictures of our students. So it might be your own child who likes a cat is going to have a picture of he likes cat. If you have a child who's a girl, then you're going to change it to she likes cat. So we can take the same books, I'll give them to you as a PowerPoint and as a PDF. So the PDF, if you just want to read it, and we'll give it to you as a PowerPoint if you want to go ahead and play with it. So next, Erin. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Erin, so I'll get unmuted and Erin will come back on.
So Carolyn just gave us a great preview of next week and all the fun that we can have with these core words when we especially focus on those words during shared reading. So next week we will be looking at books that just give us great opportunities to model these words and to use these words as we talk about the books. We'll be showing you some really fun free text that you can download and personalize and edit. And we'll look just a little bit at how to use some of these core words as sight words for our students who are further along and are really becoming extremely aware of print, and they know their letters, they know their letter names, and now they're paying enough attention to words that sight words is a really appropriate goal. So we hope to see you next week for that. We're looking at our webinar schedule right now, and the most common question coming in is people who say, help, we have the app Protocol to Go, but it's set up to make requests. I'm trying to follow the series, but I actually can't figure out how to switch to a core word system. When that's the case, we think what's happened with so many of our kids is they've been started out with these basic users that don't have core words. So we've approached Assistiveware and asked them to do a webinar just for all of our folks who are trying to make that shift over to have a robust core word vocabulary in Proloquo. And so Jennifer Martin from Assistiveware will be doing that, and will really show all the programming things that you need to know if that's the system you've been using. So that's the most common question we've been getting. If you've got questions about any of the aspects of the system, we'd love to hear that from you as we finalize the webinar series for the rest of the year. We have our outline of what to do each week, but we're really looking for input. So maybe your questions are you want more help with a specific strategy, such as aided language input, or shared reading strategies, or more specifics around how we model. Maybe you want help with one of the tools, such as you're struggling with a specific app or a specific communication system. Maybe you want more help with targets, such as goal setting. And there were certainly a lot of questions about goal setting in the last month, as so many of us were working on our IEPs, our individual education plan. Or maybe what your big question is more around implementation, that you feel like your team has all the information, but actually getting going is the hard part. And maybe that's where you want the most support. But we'd really like to hear from you. So you could do that in the questions at the end of this webinar in just a few minutes. You could do it on the Facebook group. But we'd really like to know if there's kind of more out there that we're possibly missing. In terms of your possible next steps following this webinar, try to think about creating what we might call irresistible invitations for our students to really want to talk about someone. They have who's and he's and she's in their lives who they really care about and are excited about. And what we want to do is create as many opportunities as possible where they are just burning to talk about those people. So, those kind of invitations can be as simple as a photo album, the camera roll on their iPad or on our smartphones. It can be personalized books. It can be just spending some time in social media, such as Facebook, looking at all their favorite people and looking for opportunities to use these words like he and she and to expand on them. Maybe that's all the next step that you want to take. Maybe you feel like you already do that and you want to target an expansion category. So you're not going to just talk about, go on social media and look for chances to use he and she. You're going to, maybe you decide that you're going to focus on describing words. And as you're, looking over your Facebook news feed with your child and looking for funny cat videos or looking for pictures of favorite people, that you're going to be trying to focus on describing words to expand on what it is that you're seeing. And whatever you're doing, we hope that you will, as a next step, come share your experiences in the Facebook group. I often hear from people privately with all kinds of questions. I really encourage them to go to the Facebook group and ask your questions publicly, because if you have a question, I absolutely promise you that many other people do. Or if you're having an experience where you're trying to do this and it's just not working, you are certainly not the only one who's frustrated, and would really like you to share your experiences. So I think at this point we will stop the recording on the webinar and allow you to start generating questions or comments and feedback. And while you get started doing that, I'm just going to remind you that the ASF Communication Training Series is made available by the Angelman Syndrome Foundation through a generous grant from the Foster Family Charitable Foundation, which is a family foundation based in California.